Welcome to the next video in the Suggestion App course. This is a complete course where we'll build a .NET 6 Blazor server application with MongoDB from the ground up. There are three things you need to know before we get started. First, this is part of a series, and this isn't the first video in the series. If you're just starting out, you should check out the playlist that's linked in the description to start from the first video in the series. Second, this course is actually a paid course. MongoDB sponsored it so you can put the videos on YouTube for free. Check out the link in the description to sign up for MongoDB Atlas for free to thank them if you haven't already. Third, you can also buy this course on imtimcorey.com. The link is in the description. Buying this course will get you all the lessons right away, the source code for each lesson, a certificate of completion, offline access, and more. It also helps sponsor more free content. The video will be the same as it is on YouTube, so feel free to watch the free version if you want to. Okay, let's jump into today's video. Note there may be more than one lesson in this video, since some lessons are short. Let's take on the admin approval page next. So admin approval page, we can close out the details. Again, we're going to start with just the setup of this page. So we're going to start with just putting the classes on. So class for H1, and this is a standard for all of them, page, heading, and then we have text uppercase and margin bottom of 4. Nothing really changes there. That's just the standard settings. All right, next up is our class equals row. And in here, we're going to say class equals suggestions count, call 8, and text, actually let's just say MT2 for just a margin of top of 2. So those are the three settings there. Then we're going to come down here and say class equals call of 4 and close button section. And then on the button itself, we'll say class equals btn-close. Down here, we're going to have our if not null for each. Then inside there, this div is going to be class equals row and submission. And then inside of this div, we'll say class equals call large 2, call medium 3, and call small of 4. So this is a little bit of an adjustment that I'm doing here that really is mostly an adjustment for various size devices. So as the device gets smaller, the number of columns this takes up gets larger. So this comes from my testing on mobile devices. So we're kind of mixing in a little bit of mobile stuff here, but that's okay. I mean, it's just the structure of it. It is what it is. So on the button, class equals btn and btn-approve. And then for this button, we'll have a class equal to btn-reject. The next section down is going to have a class equal to call large 10, call medium of 9, and call small of 8. Now, these match up. So 2 plus 10 is 12, 3 plus 9 is 12, and 4 plus 8 is 12. They don't have to match up if you want things to align differently. For instance, if I said column large of 6 here, and I had 10 here, what will happen is this will go on the next row instead. Because 6 plus 10 is 16, that's more than 12. Therefore, we can't put the 10 column entry in one row. We'll move it down to the next row where it can. So that would work. It's not really what we do very often, but it can work. Okay, inside of our edit form, we're going to have a class equals the approval edit form. And then our input text is going to have a class. And this is going to be a form control that comes from Bootstrap. Form control and approval edit field. And that's our custom class. The button is going to have a class of just btn. That's it. That's going to be for both of them. So let's just apply that on both buttons. And then we do have an additional thing to apply to our check mark, which is submission edit approve. And then down here, the extra class will be submission edit reject. So what's going to happen here is this is the check mark. Well, we need to apply it color to put it green, and this one will have a color for red for the X. So with that, I think we're done with the edit form. We can now come down to the suggest section where we do have some things after the pencil. Suggestion, edit, icon. That's going to apply some styling to the pencil icon. And then these right here, category name, display name, they're pretty standard, pretty, nothing goes on there. So we're going to leave those alone, not put any classes there. And then we come down to our edit form. And our edit form does have a class, and that's approval edit form. And yes, that gets a little long there, but is what it is. Inputs, we do have stuff for text here. Class equals form control and approval edit field. Now for our buttons, those are also of type btn, so we'll apply that class there as well. It's the same basic set of principles here. So submission edit approve and submission edit reject. Key thing is make sure you type it correctly so you don't have a class not being applied because it's mistyped. And then down here for our pencil icon again, submission edit icon. And that's all of the classes we need to apply to the admin approval page. Now it's time to go back through and start looking for what classes we need to style. And the first one is going to be this one right here. So on the row for each submission, we're going to have a submission entry. And for submission, we're going to say background color is white. And then the border radius is going to be that 10 pixels. And padding is 1 rem. And margin bottom is 1 rem. So that's our submission class, which encompasses the entire submission here. And then as we go down, we're going to get these two buttons, btn-approve and then btn-reject. So let's grab btn-approve first. We'll actually do both of them for some things. So btn-approve, comma, btn-reject. And then in here, we will say that their widths should be 100%. Take up all available space. The font family should be Montserrat. And then the sans serif. And the border radius should be 10 pixels. And the border width should be 3 pixels. Now, beyond this, we also need to do specific button approval and button reject information. So approve is going to get a color of white. And then it's going to have a background color of B5D43A. And then the border color is going to be white. And we also have for this a hover. So the hover is going to have this for a color. And then we're going to have the border color be the same. And then the background color is going to be white. Basically flipping this. So the background color was this, and now, whoops, it was this, and now it's the white, and the border color and the color were white, and now they're that color. So that's the flip there. We're going to do the same thing with reject, but with different colors. So let's copy and paste. And this is going to be reject. And the color will be white in the same spot, but for the background color, we're going to have that be E9354C. So that's the background color, which will change to the primary color and the border color. So that's the btn-reject hover. Okay, so that takes care of our buttons. Now let's put a little extra space here. I like to have an extra line of space between my sections. Now let's go back over here. We've got this done. So the next thing we're looking for is the approval edit form. That's the next thing we're going to modify or style, actually. The approval edit form should have a display of flex. That's it. Pretty simple stuff. And then inside this form, we're going to have the approval edit field. And for that, we need to have a flex of 1 and the border radius of 10 pixels. And then down here, we have the submission edit approval. Submission edit approve. This is why I copy and paste, because I make sure I get it exactly right. It does mean if I have a typo, I'm pasting that typo in, but that's not the end of the world. So submission edit approve is going to have a color of B5D43A. And then we'll have a hover for this as well. So like so. And the hover is going to have a font weight of 700 or bold. And then we'll have so this is the submission edit approve. We're going to have something very similar for reject. Let's tab this out so it's the same style. So submission edit reject and reject hover. The reject hover will still have the weight, but we're going to grab this color right here, the E9354C, and that will be our reject. So that's the two icons here, the approve and the reject. we do need to have our suggestion edit icon. Let's come down here and add that. And the submission, it's suggestion. Oops. I have submission here and I have suggestion here. That's not right. Let's go back over here. Instead of suggestion, it should be submission. How about that? Let's check down here. I have submission. So if I hadn't caught that, these two would be out of sync and one would work and one wouldn't work. And if you didn't test it thoroughly, you might not see that. So it's submission edit icon. Just like the other is submission and submission. It's good to have conventions you follow so you can look at that and go, that's not right. Padding left, 1 rem. Padding right, 1 rem. And then let's grab us again. We're going to have another one that is a hover. And that's going to have a color change. And the color will be 39BAD8. Let's tab that out, and that's our blue. So that's the CSS changes. Once we get down to the submission edit icon, there's no more changes. These are the same coloring and formatting changes as the above. So therefore, we should be done with the admin page, but let's run this and see. Wait for it to load. Takes a little bit. There we go. So now let's look at the admin page. We have 0 submissions. Excellent. Let's create some because we need something to test. This is our first submission test. It's a course, and I am testing out making a suggestion. Period. There's one, and let's do one more because we should. This is one more for us, and it's going to be a 10-minute training. Be quick about it. Suggest. Now, it may take a minute for this page to load because it is cached, and we're not very aggressive in reloading this page or reloading this cache. But if we wait for a minute, it will reload. Or what we can do is start over because that will clearly cache out and get us started fresh so we can see the elements in the admin. There we go. So there is our page. It looks a lot better than it used to. We have 2 submissions and we have our X in the upper right-hand corner. We have approve or reject. We mouse over it and it changes appropriately. And here's that little pencil icon. If we mouse over it, changes to a blue. We click on it, and now notice the full space text box, and there's a green check mark or a red X. So if I say red X, nothing happens. But if I were to, with an edit, like so, and I were to say X, then it's going to actually, it says with an edit. Excellent. It will not save that. If we come back to, refresh is going to help because we have it cached. Let's reload this page and see if it's still there. We're going to have to fix that though. We're going to put that in the bug list because with an edit, that should not have made a change since we hit X. So first submission test, if we hit the X, it does update. That's problematic. So let's figure out real quick if that's something quick we can fix or if we need to address in a different way. So the on click for reject for, I was doing this one, is string.empty for current editing title. That's all it does is set a string.empty. So this is triggering a save title, it looks like, though, even though it's not supposed to. So let's go down here and put a breakpoint in on save title, just to check. And we're going to load that page up with a test edit. Going to hit X. And it is triggering that save title. We'll have to make sure that that's not, in fact, doing that anymore. We got to change how that button works. So let's, we're going to do some quick tests on this to see if we can get this to not do this. So the first thing we'll do is we'll change, we don't have a type on this. So type equals, we have button submit or reset. Let's just try setting it to button for a minute to see if that will work on the title. We haven't modified the description yet. There's no reason to modify both until we're sure of what's going to happen here. So this is a quick test. If this doesn't work, the other one should. So our first submission test to see if the edit works. We hit the red X, and it did not trigger our page. So we do have to go in and mark these as buttons. I forgot to do that. So now they're marked as buttons, so the type isn't inferred, because if you say the type is submit, that's what submits the form. Well, with no type, it's assuming a submit instead of assuming a button. So this way we make sure that that is fixed. So with that though, the page is done. I mean, it's a pretty quick and easy page to do. It was just making the modifications to lay it out nice and make it quick for the admin to do something with this data. So now when you see these two here, you can say, hey, our first submission test, let's make sure a modification does work with correct mod, like so, and we'll hit the green check mark. We will undo the breakpoint, hit continue. And with correct mod, we can approve this. And this 10-minute training one, we're going to hit reject on. So now if we close out of this page, we have 6 submissions, including our awaiting upvote. Notice I cannot click on this because it's my submission. So it's awaiting upvote instead of click to upvote. And this is our first submission test with correct mod. It's a courses. If I click on this, we can see Tim Corey Test is the person who did this. I still can't upvote in here. But now if I go to my profile page, which is not yet formatted properly, but I can see approved suggestions. This is our first submission test with correct mod. And I have rejected submissions. These are the suggestions were not deemed appropriate. And this is the 10-minute training one I rejected. So that's my account page now, which actually has something on it, which is convenient because we need to style that page as well. Since we're already focused on the profile page, let's make this look good. So let's go to the profile page. We can close out of our error message, close out of this admin page, and we can go to the profile page. So the profile page is going to be one of a lot of repetition. Remember, we have these sections that are all the same. So we need to make sure we take that into account. So first, let's style the heading. The same style, page, heading, the text, uppercase, and margin bottom of 4. Consistency is important. Row, class equals column of 12, and close button section. And then we'll have a class here that has btn and btn-close. That takes care of the standard things. Well, it's about the standard things, because now we have the my account, which the class equals form layout, which indicates we probably didn't name that real well, because it's not just forms that it's the layout for, but it's the same CSS. So margin bottom of 3. We can come back and rename these and just rename it everywhere to be what we want. All right, class equals my submission heading. That's a new one. And then we'll have the paragraph have a class equal to my submission text. That'd be a pretty common one we're going to use quite a bit. And that's it for this section. So let's move into the approved. Remember, we have to mirror these changes for each of these sections. So if you're not good at being consistent, now is the time to learn. Now is the time to figure out how to do this well. We can copy and paste, and inside of the for each, we can just directly copy and paste because this stuff doesn't change. This right here changes, this right here changes, and that changes. So we can get away with a lot of copy and paste here. So let's start off with the top stuff. The div class equals form layout and margin bottom of 3. So again, I'm going to copy this now that I have it to the other ones. So again, that top div, come down here, that top div, and come down here, that top div. You can also use these little yellow indicators. These are the things that have been changed and not yet saved. This lets you know on the scroll bar over here where you can scroll up to find these different things. So really helpful there to be able to scroll up to, oh, this is the one that is, the major changes up here. Well, those are the big things we changed right here. But then we have these 4 dots to indicate those 4 things that are the same that we changed. So we can say class equals for this one, my submission heading. Notice it matches this submission heading. It's just the same thing. Let's copy this. And again, scroll down to that little yellow indicator and go, oh, there's next H2. We will scroll down to the next little yellow indicator. There's our next H2. And right down here, and the next H2. And the reason the yellow indicator was there is because the line above it was changed. Now they're getting a little bigger because of the fact that 2 lines have changed. We'll make them even bigger because we're going to grab this my submission text for the paragraph. So come down here, paste, paste, and paste. Go back to the top, and we're going to go down to this horizontal rule, which gets its own class. My-submission-separator. Now, I'm not going to do the copy and paste yet because of the fact that everything in the for each is the same. So I can put all of my classes on here and then copy the whole section. And that's good because I've got a few of them to add. So font weight of bold, the suggestion detail suggestion. And then we're going to have, this is going to be the class equals my submission text, which will be the next few. So let's just grab this. Total vote count, category name, and description all get that. And then so does the owner notes. Now up here, we have this text right here, the bold for the suggestion itself. That makes the suggestion kind of pop out. But we'll have the same thing for the status. So again, following some similar patterns here. So let's grab all of this content, copy it, and we'll come down here, and everything inside of the for each gets replaced. And then everything inside the for each gets replaced. And then everything inside of for each gets replaced. Before I do though, notice it ends on line 168. When I paste in, it still ends on line 168. That's a pretty good indicator that you're doing things right because you haven't changed the number of lines. Now, if you added new lines in the first one, obviously it would change the others as well. But if you didn't add new lines, but the line number was changing, that would indicate you didn't copy enough or you copied too much. And that's all there is to this page. So that's all of the different classes, which aren't that many. So let's go over to our CSS. Actually, we'll grab those classes. The first one is the heading. This right here, my submission heading, we repeat a lot on this page. So my submission heading, and the heading has a color of black. This is a pretty plain page. Text transform is going to be uppercase. Now we also have the text one, my submission text. And this one is going to have a margin bottom of 0 and a padding left of 1 rem. And the only other one we have is the horizontal rule has a my-submission-separator. And in here, we want a color on this of A9, A9, A9. We want a height of 2 pixels, and you want an opacity of 1. That's it. That's all the changes to our page. Let's run this again, see this in action. And this page is not about having the really flashy graphics and all the rest, because it's not a page to do stuff with. It's just a profile page. So now, there we go. There's our approved suggestions. There it is. There's our rejected suggestions. There it is. There's my account. I can edit my profile, which will take me to the Microsoft edit page. There we go. We can hit continue. I didn't really change anything, but there's also this X button here. We go hit that and it goes back to the main page. So now the page looks like it's at least formatted well. There'll be a line between each of these. In fact, let's add one more. Create another suggestion. Goofy suggestion that you should not approve. In-depth. Discuss movies. How about that? Suggest. Well, if we go to the admin page, it's already there. Cool. We can reject that. Let's go to our profile page. And now we see there's a separation between the two of those. We can see the difference there between the various submissions. So we'll have approved suggestions, rejected submissions, or suggestions. We'll have archive suggestions, and we'll have one more that I'm drawing a blank. Oh, no, approved, rejected, archived, and pending. That's what it is, pending suggestions. Things that have not yet been approved by the admin. In fact, we could do one more. Is this still in pending? How about a question mark there instead of an exclamation point? Dev question. What do you think? Suggest. Go to our profile page. We have to probably refresh because we've got that 1 minute timer on it for even our profile. Again, it just stops us from hitting the database over and over and over again. In most cases, it's not a big deal. But when you're testing things, you want to see that third pending suggestion pop up quickly. So you could, if you wanted to, change it from minutes to seconds, but you need to make sure to remember to turn it back before you go to production. I prefer to leave it where it is and just restart my browser to see it. So we have approved suggestions, pending suggestions, rejected suggestions in this list. If we had archive suggestions, we'd see that too. So we're almost done our formatting The one thing we don't have yet is if we go somewhere we're not allowed. Let's log out. And then we're going to go to suggest. Oops. Suggest actually doesn't allow you to do that because it says we're not even going to let you go to /create. We can go there manually. And this is the page, which right now is ugly. So let's make this pretty like all the rest next. The last page to be styled is this authorized or authorization required page. This still does not look correct. So let's style this page. So we can go to our Solution Explorer and go to the Not Authorized page. The cool thing here is we don't need to change any CSS. We just need to apply the styles we already have. So class equals row and justify content center. And then for this div, we'll put class equals call XL 8 and a column large of 10 and form layout. Underneath that, we'll have a row inside this. You can nest rows if you need to. Class equals call 11. And then down here, we'll have a call of 1 to match. And the close button section. I'm kind of jumping around here. I probably shouldn't do that. Let's go to the authorization required. Class equal to font weight of bold, margin bottom of 2, and FS5. That's FS. And that's for the sizing of it. So we have a font size of 5, sorry. Paragraph is fine. We can come down here. We have our close page right here, which it's not BG opacity of 10. Whoops. That would be call 1. I'm not quite sure how we got the other there. I must have clicked off it wrong. But call 1 and close button section. And then our button itself will have a class of btn and btn-close. And that should be it. Let's see it in action. In most cases, you shouldn't be able to get to this page, but if you manually go to a page that you're not supposed to go to, like create, when you're not logged in, that's the message. Authorization required. You don't have access to this. Little X button in the corner takes you back into the place where you can be, and that is the home page. So that's how we turn a pretty ugly site into a site that looks really good, and it is functional. It has nice elements on it. Things look correct. So now what we need to do is we need to add some admin spots here, admin things, because right now we can't perform actions on these suggestions. For example, we can't add the status. We can't archive things and some other things we need to do. So we're going to take on that next, and then we'll move on to styling this for mobile. We're going to wait to style things in mobile until after we have our admin stuff in place.